Welcome to Fargo Talks Fargo, an unofficial podcast on the FX television series. Fargo Talks Fargo is hosted by me, Bill, and my buddy Charpie. This season of Fargo Talks Fargo is sponsored by Fargo Brewing and their Wood Chipper IPA. We'll tell you more about that later in the show. We're also sponsored today by Audible.com. We'll tell you how later to tune in, check it out. Charpie will make a recommendation on how you can get your own free book when you sign up for Audible. If you're already signed up, well, then just go get the book Charpie recommends later. So,
yeah, I got
until
a hot
then,
recommendation.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. So, we had our hot dish the other night. Anyone who hasn't listened to those or doesn't, we gave all sorts of cake about that. And so here we are talking about Season 2, Episode 3, The Myth of Sisyphus. Oh, my God. I did the same thing last time.
Yep.
I haven't even had a beer.
Maybe that's
wrong?
the problem.
Well, whatever. The Myth of Sisyphus.
Not syphilis.
Syphilis. Yeah, that was
Which
you last
also
time.
has its own myths.
I have to say that Yamasuki Singer song in my head, 100%. I woke up this morning and I was like...
Yep.
I'm like, why? Why is it so good? Oh, we don't need to go into that. So if you want to know what's up with that, go check out the hot dish and listen to it. We talk about it right away.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
great,
opening.
but
The song in the opening credits.
Yep, song in the opening credits. So we don't need to go crazy on that. I don't think we even need to talk too crazy about Hansi in the woods with the rabbit, and he's the only kid who doesn't clap. And I don't know. There's so many things I feel like we could go deep catalog on here, and I don't know if they completely matter to every tidbit of the story. Do you agree?
I agree. I think that scene's probably just adding a little bit more depth to his character.
Yeah.
And we're just getting little bits and pieces of that and sprinkles here and there, and I think that's really nice. And I don't think we have to go too far into that kind of stuff.
Well, take us in there, Charpie.
But we do start off, so after that we dive right into that Gerhardt home. And this is interesting. So you kind of mentioned earlier, as we were talking before, that he walks through Hansi walks through the property to the Gerhardt house, and he's sort of traveling over a burial ground, essentially, right? Like a Gerhardt burial ground. And I think what you mentioned that was interesting about that is they're just establishing the history that these guys, this is their land. They've been on it for a long time. There's a lot of generations that have been around this neck of the woods.
Yeah, and I think you know as much as I do that that's very typical on some old farmsteads around the region. Sometimes people will say they're buried on the property somewhere or whatever, and if they're not, they've started a small family plot somewhere on the edge of the premises or farm. That's just so it's normal, but yeah, it's family history. They've been there long enough to have lived and died and buried people. Yep,
and while we're at the meeting of the minds in this sort of Gerhardt,
the compound.
Yeah, compound meeting room, creepy Nazi-ish location.
Yeah.
Are you finding that even though Bear, I mean, clearly the audience is always on Bear's side because he seems like somewhat a lovable guy. He's not like the warmongering Dodd, but he's kind of disgusting to be around.
He's that way because he's always eating. I feel like that's
always
something. I mean, and his name's Bear. He's always filling his mouth, but I notice he's always eating birds a lot. It's never like a steak or a piece of pork. It's always like chicken and turkey, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell what's on his plate because they're all eating it, so I want to think it's like a dessert or a bread or something.
It's just a giant hillock of shit.
Because the guests all have like little dainty little pieces of whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I paused it and I was looking at it. I was like, is that bread or cake or something? But he's got like 4 pieces on a giant dinner plate while everybody else has like tiny little dessert-ish type
He's a man with an appetite. But I think the thing with Bear that I notice is that he definitely, in the conversation, he stands with his mother. Always there, always backing it up. Yeah, mom says so. And yet, and then in the scene, Dodd is just, he's aggressive. The things I wrote down is, he's talking about a state of siege. This is our business. We built it. You can't just write a check. This is, I think, a little bit about what I brought up early in the season about it's about small town America being taken over by corporations who think they can come in. This is the Lowe's coming into town and shutting down your local hardware store, this kind of stuff. And it's got him pissed. And I think
that's representative of the era. Like, that's happening right now in America.
Yes. Yeah. And I think Bear doesn't know it, but Floyd does. She goes about it in a much more charming Minnesota nice way, much like we'll talk about later with Mike Milligan. But Bear just kind of stands. They stand together, and he's man, Dodd's pissed.
And Dodd's ready for war. He wants to. He's ready for high noon, as they've mentioned a couple times in this show.
He's the Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, he's he wants to. He doesn't want this to be like a passive experience. He wants us to take hold of it and show these guys who's boss, even if they are the big city folk.
Yeah.
And Floyd mentions that they're not going to come out like it's high noon, guns a-blazing, when kind of they did later on. But then she also goes to mention how Kansas City is like sharks. They're like all the sharks in the sea or something like that.
Yeah, there's been a few references to don't trust things from the sea, all that jazz. But made the note, too, about, Bear agreeing with Floyd, and then he says, know thyself. And because Noah Hawley loves all things, Greek and parable and whatnot, it's actually Greek, the know thyself. And a lot of people do think it's from the Bible, but if you kind of look it up, it's not really from the Bible. But it's basically a comment of, don't be boastful, know who you are. And Floyd knows this, Bear knows this, but that's just Bear sticking his head in there and saying to Dodd, dude, don't know yourself.
Know your place. Biatch.
Know your place. Know what the situation is, because if you don't, you're going to get your ass kicked. And I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know how long Dodd is going to survive. He's too hot-headed.
I think he's got to be around for a while. He's just a pillar of that aggression. Mm-hmm. And if that comes down, then what? There's really that force, like grinding force that's opposing the entire will of everybody in the family won't exist. So he's got to be there for that.
Yeah, and did you notice too that he's like, right, Dad? Like, he knows the guy can't answer him, but he has to just say it almost in a manner of saying, "No, Dad's on my side. He's my guy. He's my guy. The guy who can't move or talk is with me."
He's just beating down those doors of the gate, and Floyd the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm. We already talked about the German feeling flag behind, and I did have to pause again and look at it and nothing. And there's also in the picture frames behind there is what appears to be a picture of like an Indian chief, a Native American chief in the back there. So I think that's just really light history that I think Hansi and his family have probably been with the crew for a while as well with history. But I would say also standing in stark contrast to this scene is the meeting of Joe and Mike at the Pearl Hotel.
How fun was that? I mean, I just love when these two guys are on screen together. Their dialogue back and forth is so interesting, right down to the brand name of the shampoo, the Agree. Mm-hmm. I mean, that little quip, that little moment, because even the audience was confused. I mean, you're not thinking of a shampoo brand. So we were in the position of Mike Milligan, which I thought was really fun. We're like, did he just say agree? Like, agree to what? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
But Mike Milligan pulls it off kind of smoothly, and he kind of has this very comfortable smirk on his face as he leans back, and he's like, yeah, I mean, agree to what?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm talking like when I say like in stark contrast to their conversation's fun and light, right? So that's big contrast from Gerhardt's to Mike
because they're in
Joe
control.
Talking.
They're the sharks. Or
I don't know if they're in control or if
they
just
feel. I mean,
yeah, there you go.
They feel that way because like Joe Bulos said, he's like, well, if we got to kill him, we kill him. If we got to pay him more, we pay him more. It's not really that. It's not really up to us, and we'll just do whatever we got to do.
It's a flow chart to him. Answer yes or no. If yes, do this. If no, do this.
Shareholders are in charge. We just got to carry out the orders.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. They're
so corporate.
They're so corporate. And not only that, he chastises Mike for being late.
Yeah.
Like he punched in late. Like, you're late.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through breakfast, and he's busy dealing with all the slippery water that makes his hair feel funny. Can't get the shampoo out. It's okay. I mean, that's what I think. That's what this scene sets up a little bit of, though. Is their place in all of this, and that deep down they just follow orders and they're machines about it.
That's right.
And he thinks they'll pass on it, and the market, and he talks about the market. It's basically they're having a conversation about risk management and just furthering the German thing, though he calls her the Frau, because so it's very obvious they know their family history. So.
And that goes by really quick, the Frau, and a lot of those little German references do, at least with Joe Bulo, they go by pretty quick, like the Frau, the Fakatka.
He's just so dismissive of her, and I feel like he could regret that later, though. I still, man, I want more. I want more Floyd, and I have a feeling that when we get her, it's going to be full tilt. Like when she finally comes unhinged and like releases the dogs that are all over the property as if it's some sort of military encampment, it's going to happen.
So that was fun. So now, let's see. We're moving along. We got
Lou driving. He and were you trying to figure? I have to admit, had nothing to do with anything. But did I miss something? Hank is like at an upside down, overturned car.
I loved that frame, and I didn't even notice it until I saw it the second time.
But I thought it was funny that he's doing something completely different, and then still talking about the gun that evidently has Rye's fingerprints on it
because he's obsessed with it.
I know. Well, he's obsessed with that in the shoe.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's gotta find he's gotta find the right guy.
No mention of I'm on the scene, or did I miss it? That he was like, I'm on the scene of a rollover here. Nope, just talking. Like, okay then. Well, I guess.
And
see you later.
Rollovers are common in country areas like that in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just another rollover.
Lou knows he's on the right path. He heads to Fargo, and that is where we meet Ben Schmidt.
Schmitty.
So
this is pretty interesting because we meet Ben Schmidt, and he's clearly a Fargo. Well, he's a Fargo police officer at this time, right?
I thought so. Yeah.
So
he's bought and paid for.
He is definitely bought and paid for, and this is turning out to be an interesting character. Now we kind of see the backstory of Schmidt because, for those who don't remember, Ben Schmidt was in season 1 of Fargo. Now, obviously, this is like 30 years later, so he's an older guy, and he happens to be a commanding officer, but up in Duluth, and he happens to be Gus Grimley's superior. Gus Grimley being the pretty much protagonist, along with Molly, of season 1.
So you suggesting this is for sure the same guy?
I think so.
Do you think because of what happened is what makes him so? Yeah.
I think that whatever goes down in Sioux Falls at high noon really kind of disturbs everybody and creates this sort of wave that probably pushes everybody away from Sioux Falls. Some big catastrophic event happens, and that wave just kind of pushes everybody out of the region, like up to Duluth and stuff. So, I mean, it could be, there could certainly be 2 Ben Schmidts. There's definitely a lot of Ben Schmidts in Fargo.
There's a lot of Schmidts. Because season 1, he talks about bodies being stacked up or something like that in season 1, anyway. But
he's kind of just a dork in season 1. And now you know why, because he is a dork.
He's always been a dork.
He's always been a dork.
Well, he doesn't have any power because the Lundegards, Jesus, the Gerhardts already have him. Speaking of Lundegaard, though, I'm reading ahead. Sorry, in our rundown.
Nice
here,
segue.
But thanks to at Salvage Chris, he pointed out something that I don't think I caught the first time around. Maybe you did.
I did not. I saw the guy walk by, but I didn't really associate him as like a Lundegaard lookalike.
Yeah, there is a total Jerry Lundegaard looking guy down to the coat, the scarf, and the hat.
Yeah, he kind of awkwardly walks by, and that's what caught my attention. Is that guy goes by in the background, and it's almost like out of place. I don't know if the guy makes eye contact with the camera or his eyes
No,
are
he
like
doesn't.
pointing. He
No,
doesn't.
no, he just walks right through. I mean, when I went to look for it, I almost missed it. I had to like back it up and watch it one more time.
I remember it happening, but I'll admit I didn't associate it with Lundegaard, but I thought it was weird. So maybe subconsciously I was like, oh, that seems familiar.
Also, I would not say that garb would be out of style for even that era, though.
No.
That hat, you see people walking around with that hat. And I'm sorry, I got to backtrack for just 1 second. Going on the whole, we're from here, so we get to have our own point of opinion on stuff. The opening scene outside of Fargo, where the Gerhardt compound is, totally not Fargo. Meaning, we do not have that much in the way of evergreen trees like that kind of woods.
That's correct.
Which, it's fine.
In fact, I think nearly every tree that's in Fargo was brought here by I mean,
it's just,
and they weren't bringing pine trees because they were bringing trees they needed to build houses with.
No, and the pine stuff is not that far from here. If you go to Bemidji, where last season took place, which is only a couple hours, totally that kind of thing. But Fargo, definitely not. Out here is lots of other stuff. So anyway, whatever. That's not a big deal. But sometimes I forget that we're supposed to be making commentary about, because I'm so into the show, I keep forgetting to talk about how certain things are for here. Bring in the local perspective. I mean, but I will say, our courthouse has that kind of feel. It's very old. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah, you can basically feel the creaks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that. So,
not the federal courthouse though.
No, that's brand new.
Which is pretty awesome.
But, World War I is over. Bad news is say hello to Adolf Hitler is the line that happens when the guy walks by, which is maybe why I didn't see the guy, because I was still focused. I'm so focused on this.
That was a great line.
This German stuff
from Ben Schmidt, and I mean, that guy is such a poop that he tells Lou Salverson that it'd be easier to just admit to the crime yourself and go to jail for the rest of your life than deal with the Gerhardts.
Yeah, but we'll find out later. Everyone's seen the show. We'll find out later. I mean,
sure.
The Gerhardts know his mother, Maud. What do you do when the judges are bought and paid for? Half the police force probably has somebody to some point in their pocket. And on top of that, Floyd knows your mom. And, it's... You don't even... He's... Okay, I can't talk about that. We don't need to. But anyway, that's the whole thing is, let's put it this way. Ben Schmidt's life is FUBAR.
Yeah. Ben Schmidt sucks.
So yeah. But
we do know he'll survive though, so there's that.
If he is the same guy, which I think he very well could be. He very well could be. So seeing as I brought the Gerhardts back up again, we do have the quick scene between Simone and Hansi where she's just wants to bust a nut and he eats the rabbit heart. I don't know how much is to that. But it's still she's got daddy issues, I think is what we learn right away right there.
Well, have you seen her dad? I mean, Jesus Christ.
I know. I'm just saying what girl of that age talks to somebody like that and finally just admits, whatever.
She's also, a teenage girl in the 70s. I mean, she wants to do her own thing. She wants to just be like a free living.
Smoke a spliff.
Yeah, she wants to just smoke some weed and chill out.
Yeah.
And, not be in a people-killing mobster family.
Exactly. She just, little did she know later, just years down the road, Cyndi Lauper would let her know that girls just want to have fun.
Yep.
Couldn't help myself, sorry. So we see a little bit of the...
listen to that song every day. I think that's what you play. Isn't that what you play when you're getting ready in the morning?
How'd you
Combing that beard?
I thought you told you to take down that camera from my bathroom, We do have a little blip at the sheriff's station, just establishing that we're getting back together with Hank, and he's got some things percolating. And he ends up heading over to the Dazzle hair salon, and we talked about this at the show. I think you made some really excellent comments about the color, and I don't know. I should look it up because whoever did the color grading for this is I hate to say it, I hate to say it this way, but it's like everything's kind of Instagram, but not like the shitty Instagram. Like the cool, everything has a slightly faded feel, but yet everybody feels real. They don't feel yellow, like all the skin tone is great and all that, but these reddish oranges and blues and browns.
Yeah, you said it before. It's like you're looking at a 1970s photograph the whole time.
Yeah, and there's all these colors that I would love to sit down. I mean, like, still, no, Holly, if you ever tune in, you don't even have to come on the podcast. Just, can you send me an email and just explain a couple nuggets to me? I won't tell anyone until later, please. But even the salon, the posters in the back of the salon have blue and orange stuff in them. And it's everywhere you turn. And did we establish, I wrote this in the notes, maybe you brought it up before. We knew it was 79, but the calendar behind, please remind me of the boss's name of the salon. Is it, what's her face?
I don't remember.
Ah, crap, we suck, whatever.
Yeah.
Peggy's boss. The calendar, as long as the calendar's correct, it's March of 1979.
Yeah, we haven't established that yet. We did know it was the beginning of the year. We did know that because we knew we just had the new year.
And it explains a lot about the amount of snow to me. I remember thinking earlier, it's got to be November. That's why there was the turkey. Now we're getting into March. Things are maybe warming up a tish, and some of that big snow is disappearing. Just getting to the edge of that where, because otherwise, if it was February, man, people would be wearing the hardcore Jerry Lundegaard, like super heavy parka.
Yeah, I mean, March is still pretty fucking cold.
It sucks. Don't get me wrong. We'll have like we will have a March day.
It's still pretty fucking cold until like, I don't know, June 29th.
No, here, let's tell people quick weather-wise. Who care? It's really January and February are crazy cold. Like crazy cold, like
nose fall off cold.
Negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit and wind chills down in the negative 40s, all
don't
this
have
stuff.
your iPod on you when you go outside because it will explode.
It'll just yeah. but you can get into March and have a randomly nice day where you're like, holy cow, it was like 35 today. And things will start melting and you'll be like, wow, early spring. And then a week later,
like, this is awesome.
And you'll be
winter wasn't so bad.
There's always that one guy who puts on shorts way too early. Like bumping his way across some college campus.
Yep.
And then like 4 days later,
out.
4 days later, we get 18 inches of snow. And everyone's like, oh, shit. And you always want to blame it on that one guy. You wouldn't have put on the goddamn shorts. Okay, so we have
and it's the same thing
so it's March.
Every year.
It's March.
An odd month.
And Peggy, it is. And Peggy wants to be the best me I can be. Because she didn't ask permission. She's gonna go to her Wellspring event, that little tart. Tart? I don't know.
Lifespring?
Tart.
Or is it?
Lifespring.
Yeah.
Lifespring, you're right. Lifespring. Of course it is. But that brings us to the first clip. Do you want to lead us into this clip that we're going to play?
Yeah, so this is just another nod, being that this is fan fiction of Fargo. This is just yet another, This is yet another nod to the movie Fargo, Coen Brothers universe. We got to pull out all these things, but we talked about this clip last season. With Marge Gunderson, and Marge Gunderson has a little bit of a monologue there towards the end of Fargo when she's got Gare in the cruiser, and she's talking about, what's this all about? What's it all worth? Is it really worth like screwing up all these lives for just a little bit of money? Like, is that what we've come to? She's just trying to wrap her head around it because she's just this, super innocent, wholesome Midwestern gal that's just trying to find the good things in the world. And then stuff like this happens. So Hank Larson is
hanging up a poster,
hanging out with them, and he just gives a little nod to that scene, which is a great scene. Everybody remembers that scene from the movie Fargo.
And during the scene, starting at 15:11, if you've bought the TV show on iTunes or whatever you have, I just also noticed that on the counter is like the Barbasol container that is blue, the stuff that you put the combs in, and then there's a bunch of orange hair things on there.
There's probably dinosaurs in there.
God, it's crazy. But so here's the scene that's definitely a nice nod to Marge Gunderson and Gare at the very end of Fargo.
We think so, yeah. City boy, turns out.
Right, Gerhardt. Raised out the proper moral fiber, I'm thinking.
I mean, to kill all those people. And for what? You know, a little money?
You know, I was thinking last night. That shoe you found.
Here comes
in the
future
tree.
Molly here.
Yep.
What if that's got something to do with the murders?
Something how?
Well, you said yourself the shooter left his vehicle behind, so I'm thinking, what if he walked out onto the road and got himself hit by a car?
Like a hit and run?
Yeah. I mean, you found glass in the road.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And skid marks. So I'm thinking, what if the killer goes after poor Denise, shoots her in the parking lot, and then inadvertently gets himself struck by a passing motorist?
Hey, Peg, didn't you say that?
I'm sorry, but that just don't make sense. I mean, how come the motorists don't stop if they hit a person? Run them over, I mean.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Peggy. It's not like you're gonna just drive home with a Gerhardt in your windshield and, start supper.
I can't. Oh, I love the way. Was it Denise? Yeah, that's what her name was. Denise, right? Did I just hear that correct? The boss who just all of a sudden was like, "Hey, didn't you?" She was. I mean, just gonna bring up the hitting the deer thing. You knew she was.
Yep.
And she's gonna put it together. Here's the thing. This isn't me. This is, and I don't remember where I read it. I read a couple things right before we got online here together. Somebody said she'll figure it out. And she'll maybe try to use it to blackmail her to, get a little kissy face time with her. I don't know if that's possible.
I love this scene, not only because of the dialogue, but the visuals. Obviously, we've covered the color things and everything like that, but there is a shot in this scene that I think is really awesome, and it's
You talking about the mirror?
Yeah, it's when Betsy is talking to Hank, and they're both the camera's obviously on them, but we have two mirrors up in the salon, and in one you're seeing Peg just kind of squirming as she's sweeping up hair. You sense her just total sense of uncomfort or discomfort. And then you see Denise in the other mirror. So we've got four people in the frame, two of which are directly behind us, the viewer, which kind of is that a play off of that split screen too, like where you're able to see two things at one time on completely, in completely separate areas, but yet they're not doing a split screen. It's We're getting to see 360 degrees of the room almost at the same time.
Yes.
And
I'm so glad you said that. And that was not in the show rundown for either of us. And I was just going to talk about it. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's awesome. And to pull that off, and there's no crew, there's no cameraman, there's mirrors everywhere.
Yes.
And
glass and
yeah, right.
Totally cool.
So that was cool. So if you do own the show, just go back and rewatch that for fun because it is fun.
It's totally worth it. We pop back in because Peggy busts her nut, and she's like, "Holy shit! I gotta go talk to Ed. We gotta. There's still a mess we need to clean up, and it's the car.
They're onto us.
And if you notice, like I brought up that when she goes in the meat shop, I had to pause it so I could actually zoom in after watching it live last night and downloading the high def version. The girl in the meat shop in Bud's is reading the Myth of Sisyphus. So nice little. I love all those little touches. I like them a lot. And other hot catch is the when she first walks in, there's a pile of ground beef in the window. And then a loaf of challah bread.
A big ass pile of just ground meat, just baking on the windowsill. I mean, that's not refrigerated or anything. It's just sitting there in the sunlight.
That isn't. It's refrigerated because it's March,
I suppose.
In Laverne, Minnesota, and that window is cold as hell because it's a single pane of glass.
Yeah, don't be fooled by the sunny days because in the winters in Fargo or Laverne or any part of that country, That
True
sun
false.
will fucking mess with you because it'll be sunny and beautiful out looking. It'll be sunny looking, and it'll be like, all right, it looks awesome outside, and then you step outside and it's 20 below.
Yeah. We need to talk about our sponsors here, and this week I'm going to talk first about Audible.com. So Audible.com is a fantastic way to listen to books, and I'm driving more than I should for living in a smaller town like Fargo, but that said, I love listening to audiobooks, and Audible.com is the way to go to do that. So here's the deal. If you go to audibletrial.com/FargoTalksFargo, you can sign up and get a free 30-day trial. And when you sign up, you will get a free download of a book. And if you don't keep the trial after those 30 days, no big deal. You keep the book. It's yours forever. And that's the best part. So if you like it, you can listen to it again because, like I've talked about, I've listened to Kitchen Confidential more than once. I know that or I've tuned into certain chapters because it was just so fun listening to Anthony Bourdain. That's a book we've recommended. And so if you go do that, you can sign up for the account, and that every month when you sign up, you will be able to get a book. They'll give you a credit. You go get a book for the price that they do. And I love it because sometimes I build up my credits, and I know I'm going on like a vacation or a long trip, and I'll get like a couple, and I'll just like blast through a bunch of books. But it's totally the way to do it because if you're already a podcast listener, if you're listening to this, so why wouldn't you listen to a book? It just seems natural to do that. And there are so many great people who read books at Audible.com, and they have this thing so dialed in. And even better, the other thing is if you're like, well, I'm not so sure. I like podcasts, but I'm not into that. Well, guess what? If you read Kindle books, they have Whisper Sync, and it will know between your Audible book that you're listening to and with Whisper Sync and your Kindle book where you left off. So you can read or listen and switch back and forth, and it'll catch your place wherever you are. So
That's
with that
pretty
said,
neat.
Sharpie,
I've never actually used
kick-ass.
that feature.
Oh, I've done it. It's wild. So, Sharpie, we need to give a recommendation. So if you sign up and you haven't already signed up, which we hope you do at audibletrial.com/FargoTalksFargo, what book could they get?
I'll tell you what they could get. Bill.
Step right up and tell them.
This is a book by Peter Kleins, and it is called The Fold. I listened to this over the summer. It's about 11 hours, so it's a pretty quick one. It's pretty interesting. And I'm a sci-fi geek, so it's along those lines again. But it's about how can I give? I'll try to give you the gist of it without ruining anything. So basically, it's about a DARPA experiment where DARPA creates this contraption, this device. I think they call it the Albuquerque door. And so DARPA creates the Albuquerque door.
Sounds like something that could happen to you in jail. What happened? Oh man, he got the Albuquerque door.
He got the old Albuquerque door.
That guy's
followed
dead.
by the Dirty Sanchez.
Oh, you were going sex. I was going with the way to die.
No, I wasn't. So they create this device that, in theory, is supposed to basically fold dimensions of time in the sense of where basically the idea is to travel further, travel over large distances by only going a few steps. So you could essentially like step into Tokyo right now. It's basically a form of travel. That's the Albuquerque door. But there's something weird going on with this machine, and there's this sort of like small town high school teacher kind of guy who's been asked to come try to figure it out because he's basically just like a genius, a Good Will Hunting kind of type guy.
Sure.
And so he's the main character, and they're trying to figure out, they're like, something is just not right about the door. It works. It seemingly works, but something is off in the universe. So whatever that is, you're going to have to find out. You're going to have to check out that book. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, let's do this. Here you go.
I just don't think it's that good, said Denise. It doesn't do anything for me. Becky bit back a smile, even though Denise couldn't see it over the phone. They'd had this conversation every other week for 2 months now. It still made for a good distraction, though, and helped fill up the time until Ben got home. It always worried her a bit when Ben was away. Ben was in charge of high-security projects, mostly weapons, often in high-risk areas. Granted, this had been one of the lowest-risk work trips he'd ever taken, just 4 days in Sandy.
So that's a little sample. Man, I've never heard. That's Ray Porter reading. I like that guy's voice.
Yeah, he's got a great voice. And I often look for books just based on the reader too.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I just burned. Done. I just bought that.
You did. You're gonna love it.
Oh man, it just looks good. You didn't tell me ahead of time what it was, and I haven't done it, so it's officially in my Audible account now.
Cool.
Thanks
It's
for the
awesome.
recommendation, Charpie.
I've started doing some sketches because I had this hankering to start doing movie posters for books that I read.
Ooh, fun.
So when you finish that, I'll show you what I've got working on that. That's my first one.
So, okay, so where do we leave off? Oh.
So let's get back into the universe.
Buds meets. Peggy and Ed have to fix their mess, and we open at the Solverson house, right?
Yes, that is correct. We'd now be so after the whole thing with the let's talk about the myth of Sisyphus real quick because
sure
because we just came out of the or the meat shop, and the gal working at the meat shop, Buds, was reading the book. So do you have any insight on what the myth of syphilis is?
I think. I mean. So Sisyphus, he was the guy's a dick, and he's got all these things. But later he ends up. His reward is that he gets to push this boulder up a hill, and every time he does, it comes back down.
So he's a king, right? He's a
yes, he was.
He was a king, but he was a greedy little bitch, and kind of lived his life lavishly, and he's just a greedy guy. So when he died, his punishment was essentially for eternity pushing this boulder up a hill, only to have the boulder roll down every night. So every morning he had to get that boulder back up to the top. Just this never-ending chore.
Yeah, it's success and failure over and over.
How do you relate that to this story? Because I think there could be a lot of Sisyphuses. There could be a lot of Sisyphi going on in the Fargo universe right now.
It could be everybody.
There's no clear, yeah, exactly, because everything's sort of pushing. Everybody's trying to figure out what the fuck happened with Rye, right?
Rye, yeah,
and nobody seems to be getting anywhere. And there's all these. Everybody's got successes and failures, and their successes aren't even like really successes.
Real.
They're just like all trying to get something. They're all trying to get somewhere, and it seems kind of just like the wheels are spinning a little bit on that black ice.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Ed and Peg, they've got their boulder is basically that vehicle, and their guilt.
Marriage is that vehicle. Every day they get up and they try to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
Does it? I don't know. It sure doesn't look like it does. Every day his mom and dad age, Dodd thinks he's getting closer to taking over the throne, and it turns out that even when his dad becomes incapacitated, he can't have it. I don't think everyone. So I don't know if Floyd is. Floyd is trying to get the top of her game, and all this. But who knows? Maybe we are Sisyphus. We're trying to figure out every episode. We try to figure out what the hell Noah Hawley is doing, and then every episode we start over and go, huh.
Which is great. I mean, the parables and the mythology and the religion stuff, that's what gives us these things to talk about and think about. And that's why the writing in this show is awesome, because you have that depth. You're not just... I would recommend before you watch the show, before you watch the next episode, look at what it's called and read the parable or whatever, because then your gears are really turning the whole time. And everything is deeper than it might seem, which is pretty fun. I mean, it just makes it way more enjoyable for me. So,
it is.
And what's connecting all these boulder pushers is essentially Rye and Rye's death. Maybe Rye's death was Sisyphus's death.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're boulder pushing.
I mean, there's a lot of people with a lot of disappointment.
Correct.
So I don't know. I don't know if we can ever truly know. I mean, we're just guessing on all this, and
we
everybody who writes stuff, and
we don't really know anything.
this is what the fun is. This is the fun, even if Noah Hawley came out and said, well, it's this. Well, I mean, think about how many songs you've listened to in your life that you think it's about one thing, and then somebody tells you, oh, this is about my dog. And you're like, well, damn, that was my wife and I's song. But who cares? Who cares?
Could have been about drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Or could have been about Sweet Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Down the lane.
But
eating grain.
We end up at Rye's place.
What a shame.
We end up at Rye's place, right? No, I skipped. Sorry, my bad. Molly's watching The Eagle's Nest, which I think is the Gerhardt compound. The Eagle's Nest is what they called Hitler's little. It was the Third Reich's castle that was like given to Hitler on his 50th birthday. Don't know if this will mean anything. Total wild stab in the dark. It's May 1979. We don't know how late it is.
No, it's March.
Eagle's Nest. March. They all start with M. The Eagle's Nest was captured on April 25th. So, will this story span a month yet, or will it only span weeks? If so, if it happens in a month, will the Eagle's Nest be captured by then?
That's interesting.
I
guess it depends on when. I mean, I'd like to know when the Duke is coming to town, because would that happen in like March or April? I don't know. Maybe because they're testing markets and stuff. So
yeah, no doubt.
So this could be just over the
They're
course
coming to town for some market research and double-blind studies. When you're getting your drug shipments through a trucking company, who do you choose? So Skip's an idiot. We're just going to move into this. Skip's an idiot and has a really nice chat at the car with Lou and Ben. And I think everything about Skip, the way he talks, the way his mannerisms are, and how much of just a pile he is Jerry Lundegaard to a T. And
down to that jacket, too. He just looks like a goof. He's got that, like...
He's a salesman, of course he is. So, and what was Jerry Lundegaard? He's a salesman. Cars.
Yep.
And they're not just for women anymore.
Oh, so, hey, I guess I didn't even catch this before, but he's always talking about the new models.
Are you going to bring up your favorite movie? Your favorite movie?
What's that?
Your favorite movie, I thought, was The Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh, yes.
Isn't this a throwback to the...
Well, that could be, too.
They're not just for kids? Or what was the line in Hudsucker Proxy?
Yeah, for kids.
For kids.
Yeah.
For the kids. Is it for the kids?
For the kids.
I don't know. For the kids.
No, but what I was thinking was, so Lundegaard sold cars.
Yeah.
Skip sells typewriters. Skip's constantly talking about, when the new models come in.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Lundegaard doing the exact same thing about the cars in Fargo?
I think so. And he was also needing the money real bad.
Yeah, he was needing the money.
That's what I'm saying. He is Jerry Lundegaard.
And all the way new down models come in,
Yeah, when they come in, it'll be a thing. It's a real deal. I know you don't.
Why didn't I realize that before?
I don't know.
Awesome.
I thought it was that way. And so I love the aside that they have with him behind them. They literally stand in front of his window
and talk about
how he's a squirrely MF. And then he's like, well, it's okay then.
Yeah, spaceships.
Spaceships. Yeah.
They're not just for women anymore.
No, not at all. Okay, so we also, just briefly, because I don't think there's a lot that's super important about it, at least until Noah Hawley calls me up and lets me know. Skip, Hansi, and Simone are at his place. They trap him because they're trying to find Rye. The only thing I love is when I can't believe she's like, what do you say, Red Man? You betcha. Can't get any more not Native American than you betcha. But
is that Indian in the butcher shop? Is that a red man?
I don't know. It looks like the Indian statue that would normally stand outside of like cigar stores and stuff.
Where they would sell Red Man, right?
Tobacco.
That was a brand.
Tobacco. Yeah, Red Man chewing tobacco.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the Wu-Tang Clan member.
Yeah. And
Or maybe
furthering, and then, go ahead.
Maybe it's a Wu-Tang thing.
Nah, I doubt it. Furthering the red/orangish colors, whatever we want to call it. It's not harvest gold, I know that. Peggy and Ed they suck at crashing the car. And man, it's so weird. They have, and I was going to talk about this later, but I'm going to talk about it now so you can think about it when they do something later. But
okay,
they have something special between them, but it honestly, it isn't like honest to God attraction. I don't even think it's attraction for Ed anymore. I think he's just kind of an empty vessel.
He could be a large one.
You know
at
what I
that.
mean? He doesn't really have a lot of feeling. I mean, the guy ground up somebody in a meat grinder and then put it next to some challah bread, is what I'm assuming.
Of all the boulder pushers, he's the one that stands out the most to me because, the second he got that body ground up, it's just like, now he's got to push the car. He slams the car into the tree. It turns around by accident, he hits the tree with the back of the car. So that's the boulder. He gets it up, he pushes it, he crashes it.
Wait.
Now he's got to do it all over again.
Maybe that's all it is.
That could
Here's
be
the deal. Every episode, first, he has to figure out what to do with the body. Ed's pushing the boulder up the hill. My wife killed a guy. What do I do? Okay, I put him in the freezer. Okay, now what? Solved. Nope, not solved. You got to get rid of the body. Okay, next episode, I got to grind up his body. Fine. And the flipping meat, right? Damn it. Okay, fine. Now, wait. There's a hole in the windshield. God damn it! I got to do that, and then you got to do that again.
And he has to do it
pretty
again.
Soon, that flipping belt buckle that's in his fireplace is gonna come back again. Maybe it's Ed.
It's Ed.
He's Sisyphus. Every day, every episode, he has to do something to dodge, and all because of something stupid Peggy did.
All because of Rye's death. So
yes,
Rye's death is the death of Sisyphus.
Yeah,
and Ed has
Ed's
taken over his
poor bastard
afterlife punishment. God. So yeah, there you go.
So yeah, blue car, red orange tow truck. We get it. They suck at that. And plus, she's talking about it out loud, and I'm like, don't you think the tow truck guy is going to hear you talking about the insurance fraud you're trying to do? But it also sets the tone or that whole scene a little bit. That she comes from kind of a crummy, cheating family.
Yeah.
That she knows so well how to cover up drunk accidents, because the guy's all ground up and all. Back to the Gerhardt
What do you do
compound.
with a ground up body?
I don't even know. You can't. I just hope. I don't want to think that people are actually eating it. Gross. I don't think Ed's that bad.
I mean, he knows there's bones in there.
You feed it to the raccoons.
Sprinkle it on the pavement to melt the ice.
There you go. So we're at the Gerhardt compound. And Bear and his son Charlie are having a chat, and lo and behold, Bear's eating. Lo and behold, the milk carton in the fridge, blue and red. And very Coen-esque movie where Charlie says, who'd want? And they don't seem like the kind of guys that would want to own half a car.
Right, when they're talking about maybe just selling part of the business to Kansas
part
City.
of the business. Yeah,
that's a good line for him.
Yeah. But further backing the whole situation that Bear is in lockstep with Mom is Grandma agrees. Everything he's talking about, Grandma agrees, and throwing into your color theory that you have that we haven't really got into because I'm still not sold on some of your theory yet. But
I don't think it's quite ironed out yet.
Charlie wants to be Dodd though. That's why he wants to stick around and he can handle himself even though things are going to go hinky. I think he's wearing all sorts of brownish colors, whereas his dad's wearing bluish colors, and they kind of match the blue and orange that his mom's wearing. But and Dodd wears all those brown colors.
I'm putting the browns and the reds in the same camp, though.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
I mean, you can't get too literal. The brown. I mean, brown is essentially.
Yeah, let's not get all designer about
red.
this now.
A darker,
either way, he wants to be more like Dodd. He wants to do something.
Right. He doesn't want to go to school anymore.
No, he wants to be part of the biz.
Yeah, he wants to use Grandpa's stroke, as like a sort of an emergency. I mean, that's why he's not in school, I assume.
It's his window.
Yeah, that's his window to like not his window of opportunity to now like get into the business. Screw school. He's a Gerhardt. He is somebody.
Yeah.
He's a Gerhardt.
I don't need edumacation. They cut to the scene opening the gate, and I can't help but the guy with the poofy hat ball thing looks like a Kaiser helmet kind of thing from World War I German stuff as they open it up and all the dogs running around. And
dogs everywhere. What are they doing?
This scene is so good though. And what are they guarding? Like, what is on the property that they're patrolling?
Why are they just out walking in a field?
Have you figured that out yet? Like, okay, so they run trucking, but what are they doing with the trucks? Are they running drugs, hookers, corn? I want to know what they're into. Like, do you ever notice that we haven't?
They're in the black market corn business.
They could be.
They could be just like they could literally be like hijacking trucks of corn and just taking them to the elevator. Yeah, this is our corn.
It's just bad corn. What's that bad corn? Wheelahaca or no?
Wheatlacoche.
Wheelacoche, yeah. Sorry. Food reference. But Lou and Ben show up. Everything's military, and
it's not bad. It's good.
Yeah. It's
moldy.
Oh, yeah. Came back to that. I think this is the beginning of the scenes that really tell us the kind of guy Lou is.
Right. This was where I thought the color was the best, because in this scene, you have two. Let's see. I don't hate to use the word pillar because I've been using that a lot, but
so you're gonna use brown as red here, really?
No, I'm talking about.
Okay.
You have Frau Floyd, and you have Lou. And they are clearly the big reddish sort of thumbs. I mean, he's wearing maroon. I mean, it's like a brownish, maroonish. It's red. Let's just say it's red.
Sure, okay, I'll go.
It's in that family. So those two. Well, either way, those two are standing out like sore thumbs, and everybody else is cast in like a bluish or like a dull, cool color.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
like all the henchmen,
dialogue,
though. All the henchmen, all the fleas, all those guys, they're all like blue, and then these two opposing forces. Like even Ben Schmidt is completely cast in blue, and he's on this. He's a law enforcement, but he's not like a. But everything he's wearing is blue. Everything.
Yes.
Those guys are all like. Their colors are making them recede while these two characters are like battling it out.
Yes.
And then Dodd comes and screws it all up.
Because Dodd's got something. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's terrible. But I just love that Lou just like stepped right into it, just walked right into it. You're dancing with the wrong girl comment, and
am I the
Dodd
only one around here who
it.
understands the concept of law enforcement?
When I talk, you listen and you answer questions, kind of stuff.
Yeah, they ask for a cop's gun, and Ben Schmidt, the fucking poop, just. Oh, yep. Of course, here's my gun.
What does Lou say? It's something about sentiment. It's got sentimental value, so I'm going to hang on to that. And then he just leans his elbow on it.
That could be a Big Lebowski reference.
Oh, could. It really ties the room together. No. I think it's a really, really tense scene, and you think things are going to unload, and it lets you know that if need be, Lou he's not going to mess around.
No.
He's, we've already talked about his military career, but did he say he was on not a clipper, was he? I don't remember. I was going to look that up to see what kind of ships those were. In reference to where,
if he was in the Navy and he was in Vietnam, the Navy was really the best branch you could be in Vietnam, because you kind of just sat out in the ocean.
Well, you better hope we don't have any vets listening to that.
Well, there's an exception, and I'm very, very close to this exception, because my father was in the Navy, and he was in Vietnam. Now, there was a very small portion of the Navy that was referred to as the Brown Water Navy. So we'll have to look up what kind of boat he was in, because I could just ask my dad. But the Brown Water Navy is because they were in the jungle, in like essentially like those
muck.
hovercrafts,
Yeah.
basically a shrewd version of a boat with barely a motor on it or maybe a fan. And
Yeah.
you just cruise around with a 50 caliber machine gun and your buddy. And so there was the there was
Florida.
that. What?
Oh, you mean Florida? Something
So
for gators.
there was the brown water
Yeah.
Navy, and that sounded, from what I've heard, terrifying.
I'm sure.
But maybe he was part
I'm
of
sure
that.
none of it was good. But the bottom line being that
Yeah.
he's
We're off track here.
unlike Ben, he's got his shit together, and this is where I was talking about earlier, where it's like, oh, Maud's boy, like he's not even his own person. Like when Dodd shows up, she doesn't even use his name, Maud's kid, kind of crap. But it also, I think, proves that Lou's not afraid to show his hand. He's not afraid to say, "Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm just looking for him, but I mean, I need to find him before this Mike Milligan guy looks for him." You guys heard of him? And he knew. I mean, he knew that they knew
Of
his
course.
name,
Yeah.
and he's just shutting down the situation.
Yep.
So
Nice.
Hey, I'm
nice,
gonna take
nice clothes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take one more break here to thank our sponsor, Fargo Brewing.
Cool.
They were on board last year. They're on board this year. I just finished one, and I have no more beer right now, but that's fine. We really want you to just go and check out their website. That's what we're doing this year. If you are local or in the area visiting in the Fargo area, you need to go and check out their tap room and just go to fargobrewing.com and you can find out where their tap room is. You can go by it. You can also click on any of their brews and find out what each one is and the thing. But what I would also say to do is if you're in Fargo or Moorhead or Bismarck, North Dakota, Mandan, Minot, St. Cloud, Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, Grand Forks, Dickinson, Parks, Pick City. Geez, this list is growing. Valley City, Mayville, North Dakota. I'm trying to see. Detroit Lakes, Perham, Park Rapids. Hey, Bemidji, just like last season. Audubon, Rorschach. They're all over the place.
I'm
You
pretty
need to
sure
go-
there's like 6 people in Pick City.
I'm just looking for South Dakota here. Hold on. Where are we at? But I bet you those people in that there really, really love Fargo Brewing. Why? Because their beer is awesome and they support our show. So go to fargobrewing.com and look it up and check out what's going on. They also are all over in all sorts of liquor stores across the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area. So they're not just some podunk little operation here in Fargo. They got a nice big facility. They got a great tap room, and they're brewing a lot of fantastic beer. And the number one beer we think you should go check out based on this show is the Wood Chipper IPA. It's really good. And if you're not going to check that out and you're like, oh, I need to try something different, you need to go check out their O-Fest Oktoberfest cans. That's, seeing as we're still in October, you should go check that out. But they'll also be at the Sioux Falls Craft Beer Expo November 7th. So you can go check that out if you're from South Dakota.
There you go.
That's
pretty cool.
Speaking of Sioux Falls,
Yeah.
right?
Very nicely done, Benny
So
boy.
we can't, I say this every week, but I mean it every week, can't thank them enough for stepping up to sponsor the show, fargobrewing.com. And if you do go into the thing, tell them Bill and Charpie sent you. And then
Yes.
while you're there, ask if you can cover my tab that's there. Just feel free to take care of that. Or throw one on my tab. Let's see how that works.
throw it on Bill's
Let's see.
tab.
Tell him Bill's running a tab. I'll buy the first 20 beers.
That's an interesting idea. That's
Well, let's
in stone
see what
now. You
happens.
realize that.
If it's on a podcast, it's real.
Let's see if that if it's on the
Look here.
podcast, then that podcast is on the internet.
Yeah,
It's
look
real.
here, son. Man has baby. That's a fact. Mom, the Weekly World News is not the
So do
paper.
it. Go to the brewery. Have beer by you,
Sorry,
Bill.
I slipped right into.
Did I
right
say
into
have
So I
beer by
Married an
you,
Axe Murderer.
Bill?
Yeah, you might have. Let's just skip over that, okay?
I haven't even had a beer yet.
No, well, get it together.
Okay, so thank you, Fargo Brewing Company.
Fargo, speaking of Fargo Brewing, in the story, we're back in Fargo.
Back at the Carriage Typewriter Shop, correct?
Mhm.
Yes. So we see. So Lou is going back. I mean, this. A lot of people are
'cause-
mentioning that this is a throwback to No Country for Old Men scene, where basically they're going back to the scene of the crime. Now, the crime didn't happen in the carriage shop, but
Well, that and the No Country for Old Men with the way the lock was knocked out, that we got a nice message from @Mark Wallander about that.
Yeah, so that was a good catch. The lock on the floor was very similar to the fashion of the lock being punched out on No Country for Old Men, which, if you haven't seen, you better.
Oh yeah.
So we have Lou back at the carriage typewriter shop, and
he gets dropped off because Ben is such a sissy.
Yeah,
he's just like,
sissy
he's
boy.
done. He's out.
Nope, he's gotta get back, take care of some business back at the office.
Business papers.
Business papers. It's business. It's business time. Anyway. And we run into Kansas City. Now, this is, man, every scene Mike Milligan is the best. I love this guy. So, a very tense standoff we have here. Even though we know that nobody's going down quite yet, I just love this tension as things are starting to wind up. The whole universe is really winding up very tightly now, and it's about to spring.
Something has to. Did you notice the one of the Kitchen brothers came out of the bathroom reading a magazine called UFO?
Oh, I did not.
Yeah.
You don't say.
Yeah. Back that tape up.
I will.
I told you I pause on the second watch through. I pause on a lot of scenes. I just look around.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm looking at it right now.
UFO.
And the Kitchen brothers, these guys are great. So when they're pointing the guns at each other, it's the same frame, but I think it's even better when they're leaving and Milligan's like, I am not a crook. Well, those brothers are both in, the one has a black jacket, but he's got like a red scarf on or something like that, and the other one's got like a reddish brown jacket. So they're like these warmish reddish colors, and they're framing Mike Milligan perfectly in all blue. And I just love that. And people are probably going to get sick of us talking about that, but it's just so beautiful, and we can move on, on the next show. But I think in this particular episode, it is so prominent. You gotta go back and look at these scenes. When they're pointing the guns at each other, there is a bright-ass blue typewriter sitting on a table, right next to.
And do you notice they're a mirror of each other? Not only that, one of them,
even their like birthmark, or their gray patches.
Well, that, and one of them is holding the gun on the, if you're staring at the screen on the right side of Mike Milligan, or to Mike Milligan's left, that guy has his left hand on the trigger.
Yep, that's interesting.
Right hand on the barrel, and on the other side, the guy in like the kind of maroon jacket has his left hand on the barrel, right hand on the trigger.
They are a mirror.
Yep.
That's why they have one name, Kitchen. There's really just one.
Yeah.
There's only been one the whole time.
Gail and Wayne.
Gail and Wayne?
Wait, wasn't there a... I don't remember. Never mind. Don't worry about it. I'll bring it back later. Mental note. Yeah, the scene is awesome. And everything he's in is just so tense, but he has these, like, moments of lightness that are just ridiculous. And basically, did Lou make a Yo Mama joke, basically? About using the back door to go see his mom? I was just like, really?
Yeah,
right okay, so here you go. You want to call that out? 19? I don't know. That one it was funny, but it seemed borderline out of character for a Minnesotan to go straight for the
absolutely
somebody's boning your mom joke. I feel like passive aggressive stuff was.
Maybe that they can. Maybe Noah Hawley feels he can sneak it, like get by with a couple of those because they're fun,
Yeah. I don't know how she came across it, but my sister sent me. I just need to talk about Mike Milligan, this Minnesota Nice thing, and how it's what did he say? He said it's like you're doing me a favor, and how Minnesota Nice isn't nice, and if you don't live here, you don't actually know how to. Most people think we are being nice, but there's a lot of times we're really not being nice.
I texted you when they said that line.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just talking in general about that, and that but that's the thing I like about Mike Milligan is that he knows.
He knows, of course, he knows.
Totally knows.
He's an outsider.
If I can remember, I will put a link to it in the show notes. There's My sister sent this to me, and she doesn't even really watch TV. My sister doesn't have cable. I don't think she has an antenna. So I don't know what made her think of this, but she somehow came across a Thrillist.com article, and it's called Midwestern Nights, a tribute to my sincere and suffocating way of life. And it's got all these pictures of Marge and Marge Gunderson, and it talks about Lou Solverson and everything in here, but it's written by a guy who grew up in the Midwest for the Thrillist, and they talk about there's a line where it says so for instance, a Northeast Jewish mother takes the most direct approach to her passive aggressiveness and would say something like, "Oh, you're going out tonight even though you're only home 3 nights from school? No, I understand. You're Mr. Popular, so if you want to leave your poor mother, that's fine." Okay, so there's that. And then, for instance, a Southern Baptist mother brings up Jesus for backup and says, "Going out tonight with those boys. Do you really think that's what an upstanding young Christian man should be doing?" Right?
Okay.
Midwest mom going out. You sure? That's it. You know that's true. I mean, my mother would say things like, with very little, and it's just super passive aggressive. You know, I would tell her something like, "Mom, don't do that. You're just trying to make me feel guilty." And she's like, "I can't make you feel guilty." Meaning, and when she'd say that, and my brother and sister would even vouch for that she was basically saying, "Well, I'm not making you feel guilty. What you're doing is.
Right.
And you just don't know it, and that's the only reason you feel that way." But yeah, they can say a lot without saying a lot. It's the eye roll, you know. It's pretty incredible. But Mike Milligan picks up on it, and it's 100% accurate.
100%.
His line about it is super, super true.
I wonder
what
what
we nice?
Inspired that.
Yes. We are very nice in general, though. But it's really hard sometimes to pick up on when we're actually being dicks. Tense shit, either way. Nixon.
I have nothing for that. But I agree that it's correct, and I'm really curious as to what inspired that to be in there.
Well, I'm curious about what inspired that to be in there. How about, I'm curious, the true thing behind that. What I'm still curious about is the next scene at the gas station.
Oh, how weird was that?
Where people are talking about circular patterns and such a night was 2 nights past. Like this guy is speaking in very, like the caretaker to the zoo.
Yeah, right. What was he? I mean, if that character was, I mean, no, I don't even want to say that.
Somebody, at all. It's just.
It is not. That was like a voice that was being channeled through this Midwestern guy at a gas station. Maybe it was the visitor's voice that they were channeling through him, because there's no way he would be saying lines like that. Do you want to play that clip, or do we?
Oh yeah, I got. Yeah, let me hear. Here, let's play it. Here we go.
Rapid fire. Some round, some oval.
What's that, friend?
Circular patterns. Unnatural. Bright. Hovering in the sky. You know, they come only in the odd months. The visitors. Always in sets of 3. Such a night was 2 nights past. Reports from Mankato to Vermilion.
Feels
Visitors
Shakespearean.
From above.
Yep. Such a night was 2 nights past.
Some say they take you to their ship and probe you in places you don't want to mention. I believe their purposes are more benevolent. As the caretaker to the zoo, when strange happenings occur, they are near.
Volkswagen.
Strange happenings, huh? I wondered what was causing that.
That's a fleshy car.
What do you call that? It's not a soliloquy, because a soliloquy would be you're on stage alone giving a
Yes, I believe
talk.
so. I don't know.
So what was that? Do you know what I mean? It felt very like theatrical Shakespearean.
It did.
Like I'm watching something from a
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Thank you, Jesus H.
It is. I mean, he even starts off like very staccato, in a way that you wouldn't have a conversation with another human being. You wouldn't start a conversation with rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
They come in all shapes.
Sometimes circular, sometimes oval.
Yeah. Of course the person's going to be like, dude, WTF are you talking about? Like you just don't start talking like that. That's why it's as if it's not really him saying those words.
Yes.
I mean, we really can't go further into it, but it was it was
interesting. Yes. I want to hang out with Noah Hawley. I just
want to
hang out, just ask questions. Like, dude, what up with that?
What up with that?
What up with that?
I said, ooh
wee. So the Blomquists got to take the bus, and I love the fact that it's a voiceover.
Yep.
A scene of them not talking to each other.
A perfect symbol of their disconnect.
Yes. There's just they're so close, but there's so much space between those two. And granted, here's the deal too. Yeah, from a human perspective, not a fictional thing. If I had just done that with my wife, I doubt I'd be riding the bus going, "Hey, have you been to that new bakery in town?" If I'm just like cleaning up one of the last, what I think, in Ed's case, until they find the belt buckle, of a murder my wife basically committed. Well, is it a manslaughter? I mean, think about it. All this ties back just to the fact that Peggy screwed up and just couldn't own it, and that he, for whatever reason, cares and owes so much to her, And she's the one who called him a paladin earlier, which is like which is like a knight, from Chaucer or something in that range. And, so he saved her, and it's like, it's almost like he wanted her more, and then after she did this, he's a little lost in the world, and now on the other side of that coin, she still kind of wants him because she needs him, even though she's going to do her all about me training.
She needs
seminar.
him, but she'll be quick to throw him under the bus, I think, if shit hits the fan.
Yes. She's also much like Floyd. I can't tell if she's a deep cave and it's empty, or if there's a treasure of stuff that's going to come out of there. I find it very hard to believe that that she'd take that role of that character if she's that empty in the script.
I don't think she's empty. I think it's certainly a complex character.
No, I know, but I feel like something else has to come to the surface.
Sure.
It's going to have to get more complex, and we're going to have to understand.
Do you
more.
think she's going to survive the season?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think Ed's going to survive the season?
No.
Do you think we will see Betsy live through the season? She won't get killed, but will we see her pass?
No.
Will Hank Larson survive the season?
If we see, let me put it this way: if we see her, it will be towards the end of the series in a flash forward, where Lou is out of his job and is taking care of Molly because she has passed. After all the bodies are stacked up.
That seems very plausible. That seems
it'll close with him moving to It'll close with him moving to a different small Minnesota town to raise his daughter alone
and get away from the event.
The event. Yep. Just
it'll just be those two.
Sioux Falls, he says Sioux Falls all over again.
It'll be those two, and they're going to be eating a cheeseburger.
Yeah. So because we're talking about them, Lou and Hank are talking, and you brought up in the show notes that it's a second mention of High Noon, and there's this clip I need to play for you, right?
Yeah, if you want, it's real quick. It's just
okay. Of Lou. This is the Lou one.
Yep.
Go see the Gerhardts then?
It's been real high noon my day. Gerhardt's and ran into those Kansas City fellas he pulled over.
Milligan. And, what do you have, the Bathroom Brothers?
Yeah.
I love the Bathroom Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
We pointed our weapons at each other for a bit before calling it a day.
That's the part I like the most. I like the fact that he said, and we pointed our guns at each other and then called it a day. It didn't faze him. I think that's why I think his military service was different. I feel like he's had guns pointed at him before.
Sure.
He's not just some boat floater guy. or whatever. He's seen.
I just feel,
something else,
I just feel like the Navy was an
his-
interesting choice. I'm
or
not
it's-
like trying
or
to
it's just
like
his resolve.
downplay the Navy's role.
No, not at all. I know. It's just his resolve. It's the way he is.
Sure. So I thought that was interesting because it was the second reference to High Noon. And I don't know if they're making a reference, specifically to the Gary Cooper movie High Noon, which was extremely tense and was just sort of this real-time portrayal of this a couple hours where the main character was about to stand off against basically an army of bad dudes, and he was kind of all alone in that battle, struggling to find people to be on his side and having them recede and run away.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of
High Noon's in a lot of stuff, though.
Sure.
It could just be that
that's true.
we're closing in on a showdown.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
He just doesn't know who he's going to have the showdown with.
It's probably a reference to Shanghai Noon, is what it probably is. With Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan. Oh, okay. So Simone and Dodd are at the dig. He wants you to meet him at the dig. Hansi wants you to meet at the dig.
Digs.
There's a lot to me that is somewhat disturbing about this interaction between he and his daughter, and it's not just about the fact that he slaps her.
Oh my God! I mean, it's his daughter. You forget for a second that it's his daughter, and he's not like beating down his girlfriend or something. This is like his child.
As if
not that makes it
would be
better,
okay.
But
well, what's scarier to me was on the second listen. I was so like, whoa, geez, he just hit her. What a dick. The second time through, I realized what she said to him was, "Is that getting you hard?"
Right.
And it's like, does that either A, there's some sort of sexual weirdness to it, which not.
That's
probably.
why
I think she just means he gets off on beating up women, which makes me wonder that
what happened to her mom.
He doesn't value women, and that's why he doesn't want his mom in charge. He thinks a man needs to run things because he's a fucking idiot man. And that he values boys because he's like, why? This is what happens. He gave me 4 girls and I wanted a boy. But I mean, awful. He's a horrible human being.
He is.
I hope he's.
When he
cancer from those
slams
cigars.
the car door on her legs.
On her. I have to admit, I felt like that was an accident and they just kept it.
Yeah.
Like somewhere after that scene got cut, she was like, "Oh my God, you just slammed my foot in the fucking door."
He just snaps out. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
Oh jeez. But either way, the whole thing, the slap, is that getting you hard, and then just the grabbing her and so forcefully like throwing her into the truck, and it's all bad. And it says a lot about Dodd, and unfortunately, it says a lot about the kind of woman Simone is, in terms of being damaged and seeking attention. Because I think she was real proud that she had brought her dad to this place,
right?
to eventually kill a guy. No big whoop. My dad just needs to bury a guy in asphalt. So, yeah, Skip's not useful, and they bury him in hot asphalt. I'm still, dude, I don't know if I buy it. I know you were talking about things you said. We don't need to get into it.
We can get into it because I went back and did my research, and I watched like all the trailers and everything, and the specific scene I was thinking of, it wasn't that guy. It was a guy that kind of looks like him. So
yeah. Plus, where's Carl Weathers? Can I ask that right now? I want to know where Carl Weathers is. I feel like I want some more Carl Weathers back to talk about the military-industrial complex.
We'll get him back.
Yeah. But Skip definitely, the scene in
Skippy.
Rye's apartment, Simone's pulling him by the tie. He's obviously very into his tie, and the poor thing is just sticking out of the dirt.
The tie has always been just like a symbol of Skip, and what we were talking about earlier was I mentioned in the hot dish that I didn't think Skip was going to be actually dead. I thought maybe he dug himself out or something because I thought he was in some scenes that we haven't seen yet. Turns out I was mistaking him for a different character. Skip definitely be gone.
Skip's dead.
It is kind of like a Lundergaard move where he's just like, he's putting himself right in that hole.
Yep. He's like, well, okay, I'm going to just go lay down here.
Well,
Can I?
Make sure I got to be comfortable here.
Okay, goodbye then. Oh, boy.
Why wouldn't you just jump out of that hole and run? take my chances with a bullet. I like that last little goodbye of Skip. His tie waving in the wind, sticking up out of that asphalt.
So I don't know. I think that's our recap, don't you?
I'd say we pretty much covered it there, Bill.
I think I feel we have to be headed for somebody or something to die, or at least some gunfire has to happen next week.
We've had at least a death per episode, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess. But, I think those kitchen boys, those bathroom brothers.
The kitchen boys, the bathroom bros.
And their, with their prog rock band.
The bodies will start hitting the floor.
Yeah. So I guess, Wolves, thanks for listening. I'm Bill. That's my buddy Charpie.
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter. That's at CHARPIE, at Charpie. And if you go right now, you can check out a little beer can design I did for Fargo Brewing Company. And then you can hire me to design cans for your brewery.
If you follow me at LEMPE, you can see a tweet I put out today with a link to a YouTube video for the Squatty Potty unicorn video.
I watched that.
Yeah,
that
great.
Is interesting. I highly recommend you do that.
Yeah, you should go see that. Otherwise, you can just follow us for the show at Fargo Talks Fargo, or you can go and check us out on Facebook at Fargo. You can go find us at facebook.com/Fargo Talks Fargo, and we've asked for some reviews on iTunes if you got them. And hey Charpie, I didn't tell you, we got accepted into the new Google podcast thing. So we're not available on that yet. Google hasn't actually launched it, but we put ourselves in for the program. We've got accepted. So when the time comes, if you're an Android user and you're enjoying the Google Play Store, very shortly you will be able to download those through that. So otherwise, you can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher, through our website, fargotalksfargo.com. So I would say until next time, later.
I'll see you guys on Monday.